But it was, but I remember it as something that happened to me when I lived here when I was 18. And I was coming into my house. I worked at this place called the Cabaret After Dark as a dishwasher. And I was 18 years old when I got out of high school. It used to be on Montgomery and Broadway. Big discotheque. It used to be, then it was called the City for a couple of years. And then it closed down and now it's, it was a long, long time ago. And this is like 14 years ago when I used to work there. And I came home from work, and this is what I remember in the dream. Right, this is the dream. I came home from work. My house, my front door faced out on the backyards of a bunch of other Victorians up there, right next to Grattan Grade School. And it looks out, up towards Sucre Tower. And as I came home, I noticed there was a small red light moving through the sky. And I was, just starting to go in my door. I had my keys in my hand, and it stopped. And I looked at it, and then it moved to another part of the sky like that. And then it went like that, and it started zigzagging down towards me, like maybe 3 or 4, zigs and zags. And then it stopped. It came down real fast, way up in the sky, and it was still blinking. And it was like to me, I remember it like being like a cop car light or something. It was just detached or something. It was, spinning like that, and it was about 200 feet above me in the air. And then at that point, I saw it was coming down towards me. I turned towards the door. I just became incredibly frightened. Turned towards the door and started trying to get the key in the lock. And the next thing I know is just this rush of like euphoria. And I don't know where I am. I'm no longer at my door. I have no idea what's happening to me. And there's some people in my brain, in my mind with me, and they're talking to me and they say, "Don't worry, we have to do this. Just relax." And I just feel incredibly euphoric. I don't care who they are, or what they're doing. And what happens next is they're going through my memories.
This is a dream?
This is what I remember as a dream.
As a dream. Okay.
Because I had no other frame of reference for it.
Okay.
And I didn't remember having it when I was 18.
Okay.
I remember it like in my early 20s. And believe me, I've never been a UFO fan. I'm not into science fiction. I don't read about UFOs. I'm not a buff. I'm not interested. I don't follow them. I don't go out looking for them. It's not something that was in my vernacular at the time, except for maybe just science fiction stuff when you're a kid.
But you like Blade Runner, though.
Oh, I like Blade Runner, but that has nothing to do with UFOs.
Yeah.
It's just about man fucking stuff over. And genetic engineering and stuff. But and besides, that came out I just like the imagery. I like Ridley Scott a lot. I like Ridley Scott's directing and his visual stuff.
It's brilliant film.
And
let's go back to the dream.
So they're looking through my memories and from my childhood on, and they're doing this intentionally. I know they are. I can feel it. I can sense it. And they're looking at different parts of my life and different things I've thought and felt and experienced. And what I think they're looking at are things that have made me happy. And I can tell this. While they're in my consciousness with me, there's also part of me that's sharing consciousness with them. And I can feel what they're thinking about, what they're observing. And they're kind of clinically looking through at different parts and stuff. And part of me just doesn't care. Part of me is just going, fuck,
Blissed out, huh?
Yeah, it's feeling incredible. And another part of me is reliving things, and they're reliving it with me. And then only next part of this, what I call a dream, right, is I'm laying on my stomach on a table, and I think I'm in a hospital. And there's people standing around. I can see their legs, and they're doing something to the back of my head back here. And I asked them what they're doing to me, and they said that they're doing something to my brain. And I said, well, how are you doing that? And they said, we opened up a small hole at the back of your skull. And I says, oh, you couldn't be doing that. He says, I don't feel any pain. You couldn't have opened anything up, because I would have felt it if you were opened up a hole in my skull. I said, nonetheless, we were doing what we were doing. And I said, well, prove to me that you opened up a hole. And I don't know why I didn't just get up or something or try to get away. I still felt good, actually, in this part. But it seemed like a different thing, a whole different kind of feeling in a way. Different place in the stream or something. And I was laying on the table on my stomach, and they took my hand, and they took my index finger, and they put it to the back of my head, and they ran my finger around the edge of this opening. And it was an opening about this big, about 3/4 of an inch long, and about maybe 3/8 of an inch high, an oval, in the back of my skull. And I thought, I wasn't worried or upset. I thought, well, gee, that's incredible. How did you manage to do that or something? I was just, going, oh wow, that's real unusual.
Sort of like nitrous oxide, but better, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't like nitrous oxide. It makes me feel out of control or something. It doesn't feel like it's a happy thing. A little bit, hallucinogenic or something almost. But that's all I remember from that. The next thing that happened was when I was living outside this college in this town called Waterford. And well, actually, when I was 18, still at that house, I had a friend from high school who was up visiting me one night, and we heard some sounds in the room, my bedroom. We were just standing in the bedroom, the lights were on, and we heard this sound. It was going. It was like a little sound, like a little special effect or something from a movie. And we thought, where'd that come from? It sounded like, if we were sitting in the room right now, it sounded like someone was right here making the sound. And you look for something, and there's nothing there. And we thought, that's strange. So we were at his brother's house the very next night, and we heard the exact same sound at his house. Now, I don't know if you follow these things or not, but some of the stuff may not seem to make sense or correlate if you do. But there are oral cues that when they come, that they give you, that like put you in a hypnotic state and prepare you for them to come and take you. But he was also out with me in the country one night.
Same friend?
Same friend. When I moved back to the country, I was going to college. This is way out in the boonies, miles and miles from the city. And he got in his car to leave, and I went to bed. I never remember hearing him leave. Well, the next morning, I guess he'd gone, but 3 or 4 days after that, because we didn't see each other all the time, he told me, he said, something must have happened out at your house tonight. He says, I got in my car, and he says, I must have sat there for an hour or more. He says, when I got home, it was, there was that much time missing.
This is your friend?
This is my friend, for him. And I never put this together just till recently. Maybe he's part of this, too. But also at this house one night when I was sleeping in the fall, I flipped up in the top floor of this place, and there was a sound walking on the roof, and it sounded as small footsteps. And I thought there must be some kind of animal up there. And it was, it was a roof like that, kind of, not quite as steep as that building over there, but it started at the west end. It was walking across the roof towards right above my head, and I was in this attic, so it was pretty, you could hear it pretty clearly. But it didn't scurry, and it wasn't 4 feet. It was 2 little steps, like a little person. And that gave me the creeps. But it came up, started walking around the area just above my head, and I remember falling asleep. That's all I remember. I moved out of that place, and in that spring, where I had gotten to earlier, talking, I was living at my sister's house in Modesto, and it was probably in April. I was going to bed one night, and I laid back in my bed just as I was relaxing. I just laid back in my bed and was just starting to stay still, when I felt as if something was walking up on the side of the bed next to me, like a cat. I had a cat that just had recently died, and I thought maybe this was the ghost of the cat or something. But it felt just like my cat would do when it walked up next to me in bed. And it was moving the sheets a little bit. So I sat up, and there was nothing there. So I laid back down. As soon as I laid back down, it started coming up directly between my legs towards my groin. And this time it was so distinct that it was pulling the covers down, across my legs into the center. And I sat bolt upright and looked, and there was like a mass of like faint light, like fog or something, right here between my legs. It was moving up, and then it stopped as soon as I sat up, and then one corner of it kind of pulled away, and it went directly in a straight line towards the bottom edge of the door of the bedroom, and then it reformed into this, just nothing, like a round shape, just a cloud shape, and it went like that under the bottom crack of the door. Well, I got up and I jumped up and I ran out and woke my sister up and said, something's coming to my room. And I thought, well, maybe this is the ghost of my cat that had died, just coming back to reassure me, or something like that. So that's my best excuse for that. But it turns out there's lots of that kind of stuff in other people's abductions or contact experiences that I never knew about, that people have flown about. So I moved out of her house after school ended in May and moved up to Jamestown, California, in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. And I lived in this old wood-frame house that used to be like a bordello in the 20s or something, on the old highway, which is now bypassed, so it's a real quiet road. And there's a few other little houses around that were built in the same kind of fashion. They were all different characters. Some were 2-story, and some were just long and narrow and single-story and stuff. I had 3 roommates at the time. I had 2 guys and 1 girl. And we all got along great. I was having one of the best times of my life there. Well, there was some poltergeist activity at this place. One night when we had a few people over, the toilet was crushed down to the floor in the bathroom, and there was water going everywhere, and someone had just used it 5 minutes before, and then someone went back in to use it, and one of my roommates had used it. And they said, hey, your toilet's broken. We go back in there, and the whole thing's crushed down to the floor. There's water going everywhere. And it's right off the living room, the bathroom, and we're all sitting there, and there was no music on, there was no sound. We didn't hear anything from it. So we thought that was real strange, and we fixed the toilet, and we made kind of jokes about it and stuff, and no one knew what it was. We thought maybe a poltergeist, or we didn't know what to think. So one night, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks after that, I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And it was about 12:30 or so at night.
What year is this?
This is 1976.
No, this is not the period between 18 and 21. This is
yeah, no, this is 18 and 21.
It's okay. Okay.
I was getting up. I went up. I had like well, don't quote me, but I had 2 beers early in the evening.
Okay.
So I got up because I had to take a pee around 12:30 in the middle of the night. I remember looking at the clock when I got up, turned the light, went to the bathroom, took a pee, came back to the room, closed the door, turned off the light, and laid that back down on my bed, which was like a 5-inch foam pad, about like my Shiki futon is there, not without the futon on top of it, just the plain foam pad. And I laid down, and I was on my left-hand side, and then immediately I knew there was something in the room with me. I could feel it thinking, and my body was just immediately. I was like electrified. I just knew there was something in the room with me, and I knew it was. I could hear it thinking, and it was thinking, "You're going to be taken." I mean, that was all I felt from it. Just, "You're going to be taken." And whatever it was, and this is before I even had a chance to open my eyes. I was laying down like on my left-hand side like this. I can demonstrate it on the bed. Like this, on my left-hand side. I was just, I get in bed like this. I was just laying like this on the left-hand side, and then I knew it was in the room with me, and immediately I just sensed that I was in danger. Then, within an instant, whatever it was crossed the room towards me and stood on the foam pad right next to my face, so that my hands, rolled down like that into it, and then this weight landed on my body, and it pushed me down through the foam pad, through the support of the foam pad, this thick, 5-inch foam pad. It pushed me down through the foam pad into the floor and held me there. It just almost like knocking the air out of me. And it held me there, and there was a loud sound in my upturned right ear that was like, it sounded kind of like a shout, and it went kind of like, like someone exhaling real loud, but it didn't stop. It just kept going, and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, and I just thought, this is it. I didn't know what was happening, but I thought, that's it. I'm dead meat, whatever it was. I've been had. But I kept thinking, too, I thought actually the first thought that came to my mind was, this can't be possible. This isn't possible. This can't be happening. And I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. I kept trying to move, but nothing would work. I mean, I kept focusing all my attention and thinking, this is life and death, and nothing, it just wasn't there. And at the same time that I felt this pressure right in front of my face, well, I knew there was a depression there because my hands rolled into it and because I felt it in the foam pad. But also at the same time, I know there was one right behind my head, and there was also depression on either side of my legs. And the image I had in my mind was of something over me like this, and then dropping its weight on me. But it didn't feel, I wasn't being touched anywhere. It was just like a wall of force or something, just pushing me down. And I don't know exactly how long it went on for. I'm sure it seemed to me like whatever this is, it's gone on for longer than it probably did go on. But as soon as I felt like I was beginning to leave my body just out of sheer terror because I couldn't move physically. So the only thing left to do was just to leave my body, and so I felt like I was just moving up and away through darkness. And that scared me even more because I felt like I was losing control.
Have you ever had that experience, out-of-body experience?
Never, ever. Not that I consciously recall ever. And but I felt like I was being forced out. I felt maybe that was its intention. But I kept thinking, I thought that I was going to be taken. So I was frightened that whatever was going to try to take me over or kill me or something. So when I felt like I was leaving my body, I kept thinking, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. This isn't something I'm going to do. So I kept thinking, no, and it stopped. And the moment it stopped, I moved again, just the instant. And I jumped up and turned on the light. And it was about 5 minutes after 3 when I looked at the clock. And I have to me, it seemed like there was only, it could have, as far as I remember, this whole thing that I just described, from the point where I laid back down in bed and sensed that it was in the room, I sensed it thinking, probably only seemed to me like maybe a minute passed, at best, at most. And
well, in fact, what was the total time?
It was about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Yeah, a little over an hour and a half. And people say, "Oh, you just fell asleep and it was a dream."